All right, the significance of the GameStop next to the lids for me is that the minimum age for recruitment in the military in the United States is 17 years old. So if you think about the um, age right now of the majority of military based on the need for recruitment that both Congress and the Senate complained about in the 2023 Department of Defense budget hearings, then you understand why something like this might be appealing in recruitment and why being able to participate in a operative or an ops protocol would be interesting for them. You think about games like The Sims and all of the other simulation type games that kids are interested in. And to be able to do something like that real life and, to be told that you're helping your country and, you'll be saving real lives and things like that would be appealing to kids, especially foster care kids who want to get out of care anyway, and who do not have adequate parental supervision or guidance. So I pose this question again of what you believe a militia would look like in 2024, what they would be wearing, where they might live, how they might be recruited. And another question is where they might be working. So as we continue on with this part of the video recording, and it looks like I'm going to have to do this in several parts, I want you to consider that because I'm also going to begin to bring in some of the religious elements. But I want to go back to the tour of Lynn Haven Mall.
There was a lot of hoopla at the Lynn Haven Mall's last day of grand opening ceremonies, but the shoppers seemed to lap it up like milk. The tug of war was fierce but friendly. At the helm of one team, Jamie Farr of the television series MASH, and heading the other, Victoria Principal, one of the stars on the Texas soap opera Dallas.
Just in time for the busy holiday shopping season, one of the biggest malls just got a makeover. 10 on your side, got a sneak peek here. This is the almost finished Lynn Haven Mall in Virginia Beach. Now, if you've been there recently, you know that mall has been a construction zone for a few months. Crews completed a top-to-bottom facelift there. One of the coolest features is the wired food court. That means most of the tables have outlets and internet connections. One of the biggest changes, that second floor, gone.
The second level has been decommissioned. It was done with purpose to create our brand new food court behind me, which also brings in that synergy in our center court. It makes the shopping experience and our food offerings more conducive with their travel pass out towards AMC Theater and the restaurants out back.
Well, the mall also got some new stores. The grand opening is this Friday. You can go check them out. You can also see Santa. He's already there. Check out our slideshow of the mall on wavy.com. He's at all of the malls.
If you go back and you watch a lot of those old West Coast hip-hop videos, there's White Sox hats everywhere. It's over 30 years where it's been a mainstay, and I think it's time to tell the story, and it's time for it to be celebrated.
The White Sox, when they switched that logo, man, it was like wildfire.
This is part of the uniform. It changed the genre, it changed the sound, it changed how people dress.
That black and white, man, that black and white works. It works with everything.
That's a true people's crown.
When I would see them with the White Sox hat, I knew they understood.
It made a statement, but we had the players to back it up.
It's like a staple now because it's too hard. It's one of the best ever.
I would say it's been the most successful rebrand in sports.
Take one.
rage crying video that I posted early this morning. It's about 3:30 now. I think the video I did this morning was about 9:30, and this is the setup and the situation this evening. You know how folks are sort of showing up and blocking in the situation here. So yeah, I've pretty much concluded any patience that I may have had left dealing with these people today. All right, so continuing on our tour, the other thing that I want to mention is that there are always going to be two aspects to any operation, and that is military based or militarily based, and that is you're going to have your intelligence gatherers, and then you also have to have those who can actually carry out any missions or interventions that you need to use in order to secure the area or to gain control of an area, right? I want to make sure that as you are listening to me, that you remind yourself that there are always two sides to any dispute, war, fight, you know, so on and so forth. And the challenge has been in a commercial civilian militia war is being able to figure out who is who. But I want to pause for a second here at this Michael Kors store to share with you a perspective on marketing, because one of the most irritating things to me is to have someone try to sell me on something that I have not asked for, requested, or need. And you think about how these app designers and game designers open source creatives who will include these pop-up ads and then these periodic advertisements within videos and things like that, doing exactly that in the hopes that people who are accessing that web page or that content would also be interested in. And my position is, if I need you, I will find you. I don't need for you to come to me and tell me what I need. I know what I need, and this isn't it. What I need is to be able to enjoy this content or to research this information without being harassed by ads. So I went into this Michael Kors store first because I noticed that there was a young lady there whose hair is cut the way I wanted my hair cut. And I had made a suggestion to myself that while on this date with Deja, if I saw anyone whose hair was cut and styled the way that I want mine done, that I would ask them where they had it done. And this is significant because you can't get any better than word of mouth marketing. If you're good at what you do and you're smart, and then on the other side of that, if you're smart enough to look for people who are doing what it is you want to do, or have been where it is you want to go, or have received the kind of service that you need and had a result that you can observe and would like to also have, that you would ask them, meaning that you have to have some social skills, where it is they got it done, to then receive the referral directly from someone who has had a good experience. If you're not good at what you do, you probably do have to put a bunch of pop-up ads and all of that inside of materials, because you otherwise would not have anyone find you. Usually those people are businesses that are trying to mimic or to duplicate a service being provided by someone who is really good at it, and they want to try to appear to be as competent and capable as that person when they are not. So I went in and I started looking at the bags, because I was very curious about why designer bags are so expensive. And so she came over to me to start telling me about all the specials. And I said, well, can you tell me where the hidden part of the bag is, the part of the bag where you can hide things and people not know that there's stuff hidden in there. And then I said, no, I'm just kidding. But I really wasn't, because I absolutely believe there is something to the fact that these bags are so expensive. And I'll show you a picture of Christine Morris at the Civil War town hall meeting that I attended back in 2019 to give you an idea of what I mean.
Trying to fit what we think the city needs into a grant application so we get the award, versus focusing on what does the city need to preserve itself, not just in terms of the flooding, but also the economic and the social piece, and then looking for funding that matches what we need. You know, for example, with St. Paul's, I know that there's lots of movement. They're going to be moving folks out soon, and the grant hasn't even been secured yet. And so I think the level of transparency that you all are providing now is great, but the question is, how do you prioritize in a way that you're seeking funding that matches what the city needs, and not trying to sort of find things in the city where we can do stuff and then making it fit a grant?
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to pause to see how packed that place is, given the concerns about housing that were going on at that time. I mean, the place is totally packed with people who are self-advocating, isn't it?
So I'm going to assume everyone heard that question. And so the question had to do with funding, how we're going about looking for funding. How do those funding opportunities really match our true needs of the communities? Does that sum it up correctly? So I can tell you that we continuously research and pursue mitigation grant, FEMA and otherwise. Christine, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you be willing to talk from an Office of Resilience perspective on the ways that we either sought HUD funding or other types of funding opportunities?
Sure, thank you, Jim. Let me come up to the...
Thank you so much. Funding, it's always such a difficult...
It's not so difficult. All right, so let's continue on with our tour. The most significant stop is the Apple store, which was the reason why we went to Lynnhaven Mall in the first place. And I was told that it would take an hour and a half before I would be able to speak with a technician, but my only goal was to have my Apple ID information updated and to schedule an appointment to come back to the Genius Bar for a service of both my MacBook Air and the last iPhone that I purchased. And after an hour and a half, we finally went back to the store because we were just tired of being in the mall. But we were open to doing it because I wanted to be able to walk around the mall, and I do not go out in public very much anymore. I usually try my best to, just stay at home because I get easily frustrated when I'm encountering people, especially given the state of our region. And it really bothers me to see when people are celebrating and, going on with their lives when other people are suffering and, just trying to make it through each day. But I appreciate that my family wants me to at least enjoy them in the ways that they found to be able to keep their spirits up. And, and I do need to get out of the house more. So we spent that hour mostly walking around and me sort of picking up on things and just checking them out. But they were not able to update my information in the store, which is part of my tech trauma. And I brought with me an iPad with the ID still in the settings, but not logged in, obviously. My driver's license, my passport, a utility bill from Dominion Power that I received through the mail, a Cox Communications bill for internet service, which I also received through the mail, a paper bill, and the last billing statement from my previous cell phone carrier with the phone number that I could no longer access. And being in the store, they still had to call customer service, and customer service was not able to make that change with me in the store to provide actual verification of anything they would need to verify my identity. So, my biggest concern about being in the Apple store yesterday was just the entire dynamic of the experience. The experience reminded me of what a bougie version of a ground zero might look like. And when I say ground zero, I say a war zone, like they depict when they share footage in Gaza, for example. And I don't mean to minimize the suffering that people there are experiencing, but in a militarized zone where the use of technologies is being used not only operatively, but also via being part of research projects, because there's no other reason for there to be 290 something cell towers and then 900 and such antenna within a 3-mile radius of my home, or in a 3-mile radius of Norfolk. So, but there are more cell towers and more antenna all over this region. So, people are still getting sick, and and there's been a lot of closures. There's a lot of blight that, of course, people will not see when people are doing tours and things like that. If you're not from here and you're here as a tourist, they will usually send you to places where you can avoid seeing those kinds of things. But in the front of the store was where most of the employees of the Apple store were. And of course, that's the area of the store where people are coming in to purchase new devices or upgrades to their current devices. In the back, which is where we were sent, are where all of the people were who already were Apple enthusiasts or Apple users who were, not interested in switching to Android, for example. And so they have cornered the market for their particular customers. And it felt like it wasn't always that way, because I've been a loyal Apple user for a long time. I have a desktop Mac. I have 2 MacBooks. I have a MacBook Air, and I have numerous iPhones and iPads, because I've gotten them as gifts, and our family has been dedicated to Apple. Because when they first opened Apple stores with the Genius bars here, I thought it was the bomb.com. I said, this is wonderful, how easy it is to use this stuff, and how supportive the employees are, and the customer service is amazing, and they offered classes, and it was just very seamless, which was enough to suck everybody in, of course. Now, when I went into the store, there were more people, customers, in the back of the store than there were browsing for new equipment, but most of the staff were in the front of the store. In the back were people. There was a woman in a wheelchair. There was a couple there that looked really tired. There were 2 kids that were crying. It reminded me of, being in a clinic during following a tornado or some kind of natural disaster. All these people back there waiting to be serviced, very tired. But what else can you do if your entire life is digitized, which is the direction that we have been groomed into for the last 30 years? There are so many things you can't even do unless you have a cell phone or access to the internet. So it was just very disheartening to be back there, and gave me even more passion to do what's necessary to work through my own tech trauma, because I had to give consideration to people who do not have the same resources that I have, who do not have the same amount of research I have done, and who don't have the wisdom to be able to piece together things that don't necessarily look like they go together, but once you look into it, realize they all fit and are under the same operation. All right, the last thing I want to show you before I start transitioning into the religious stuff to help you bridge all of this together is the Internet of Things Cybersecurity Improvement Act that Mark Warner introduced in Congress back in 2019 and 2020. And essentially, it requires that NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and the Office of Management and Budget take specific steps to increase cybersecurity for Internet of Things devices. And IoT is the extension of internet connectivity into physical devices and everyday objects. So it's this kind of mindset that helps to set the tone for the level of connectivity that people have been lured into over the last several years. And it's something that is tied into the religious aspect because of how people's phones are accessed and what kind of information is retrieved and transmitted once someone who is on the ground, like a 17-year-old active duty 4-year contracted young man, would be gathering as a way, as he's being told, is a way to ensure that with the immigration crisis that we're having, people are not in the mall or in the area who could be a security risk, when really the security risk are the people who they are doing it for. So keep that in context as I talk more about religion, and then how I think about things like the way the Bible is used as a covert measure for this kind of civil and civic warmongering.